I've had all the pain and sorrow one lifetime will last. Go and tell my darling the highway's got me now. The highway's got me now.
My name is Bryn Roy. I played 7 years professional football in the Canadian Football League, and I'm a professional steer wrestler now. I was a rookie in 2022, and I've been rodeoing full time here for the last couple of years now. Well, I grew up in a rodeo family. My dad was the first Canadian to win a world title, and so I was a rodeo brat. I lived a real cool life. My brother and I were pretty fortunate that my dad, wanted my mom and my brother and I to come along. And so we would uproot and homeschool and travel on the rodeo trail with him. So we pretty much grew up in a living quarters horse trailer and went everywhere he went. And so it was a very unique childhood to get to do that. And obviously it allowed me, it was a pretty easy decision as far as what I wanted to do. I wanted to do that. I wanted to be a professional steer wrestler. And in the meantime, he was rodeoing still when I was in high school, and it just wasn't financially, in the cards for me to have a truck and a trailer and a horse of my own, because my horse was my head horse. I roped a bunch. My head horse was his Hazen horse. And so when he was gone, so was my horse. And so it was a lot easier for me to just get in a truck with the neighbor kids and go to football practice, and not just football. I played baseball and basketball and played all school sports, and really, I loved sports, but I really fell in love with football. And I think a lot of that was from again, kind of spending our winters in Texas as a kid. I was a big Dallas Cowboys fan, and just grew up loving that game. And when we weren't roping the dummy at a rodeo, we were playing catch, or playing football with kids we met at the rodeo or something. And so it was just always something that I really enjoyed. And in the process, I was pretty good. And it was kind of one of those things where I finally got the chance to play when I was about 12 years old, and loved it and excelled, and continued to rodeo. But then at the end of high school, I had a decision to make. I was either going to go to college for football or go for rodeo. And so dad and I, there were several conversations and decision making conversations that kind of went into things. And at the end of the day, the decision was based off of, well, you can rodeo when you're done playing football, but you can't play football when you're done rodeoing. So the decision was pretty much as easy as that. And obviously I had no idea that it was going to go the direction it did or take me the places that it did. But I ended up, I had some offers from some Canadian schools to play. And I didn't really, again, my thinking was, if I'm just going to stay in Canada and go to college here, then I'm going to go rodeo. Like if that was the highest level I could get to, then I was just going to do something else. So I really wanted to play ball in the U.S. And so I ended up walking on to the football team at Snow Junior College in Ephraim, Utah. And at the time they were nationally ranked. And so they were always top 5 in the nation, competing for a national title. And I walked on. I went to a walk-on camp. Again, I had offers to Canadian schools, but wasn't too high on the idea. So I went to a walk-on camp. There was 200 kids there, and they took 7, and I was one of them. And that didn't mean I was on scholarship. That just meant I had the opportunity to go play there. So I did, and I earned a scholarship my first semester there, and I was on scholarship for the remainder of my college career. And so I went there as a free safety, and they moved me to linebacker, and I ended up playing linebacker there and excelled and was a all conference linebacker. And then I went to Transferred from there to Adams State for a year. Again, didn't really like it. My cousin was on a rodeo scholarship at West Texas A&M, and I was hurt that season, and so I would drive from Alamosa, Colorado to Canyon, Texas, and go hang out with him and party and just enjoy being a college student that season. And when I was at one of the rodeos, I met with the Texas Tech rodeo coach at the time, and he offered me a scholarship. And so I got my release from Adams State and was going to take a rodeo scholarship at that point. And then I got a call from Texas A&M Commerce, and they offered me a scholarship to play football. So I went back and continued playing and had a really good season there and got drafted. That was, like I said, that wasn't obviously that was the goal. When I left home initially, I wanted to play as long as I could, but just didn't know if playing pro was in the cards or what. I was a first generation college student and a first generation football player. So again, I was playing football because it was something I could do. I had a ride to practice, and it was a good babysitter, I guess, when I was a kid. And so that was kind of what it was to me. And obviously I had a passion for the game, but didn't really think that, being a kid that came from a rodeo family, that nobody knew anything about football, and I didn't know anybody that had even really went very far in football. So to me, it wasn't something that it was just something I was doing, and it was paying for my school, and I was enjoying it. And obviously it was a lot of hard work, and it was a challenge. So I was all in, and I was invested. And then draft day came, on the lead up to the draft, I started getting calls from multiple teams. Pretty much every team in the CFL had called and put me through their question and answers, and everything that they want to know about you as a human and as a player and all of that. And ended up, draft day came and my name was selected. And then from that point on, it was like, all right, well, let's go. So I went to reported to camp, ended up making the team, signed a 3-year deal, or a 2 and an option, which I thought was 2 in our option, but it was 2 in their option. And they opted into my 3rd year. So I ended up being there for 3 years and signed another deal and ended up playing for 7 years for 3 different teams, and had a pretty cool experience, and wouldn't trade it for anything, to be honest. It was definitely learn as you go. And it was talking to home lots. If it wasn't going well wherever I was constantly thinking, well, should I just go rodeo? Should I just change sports like I did this and whatnot? But I stuck it out and ended up 2020 was COVID happened, and I had signed and played with Montreal my last year in 2019. And then COVID happened and there wasn't a season. But 2019, I had kind of seen the writing on the wall as far as my career went. I mean, the career average in pro football is 2.7 years. And at that point, I'd played 7. And so I felt like I was playing on borrowed time as it was, just because every year there's a whole new draft class and a bunch of 21-year-old kids that are ready to come and take your job. And you're just fighting the whole time, it seemed like, and competing. And it was as cool of a job as it was a very stressful job, because you're kind of peeking around the corner at the depth chart every day to see if you have a job, and you see guys that are there at breakfast that aren't there at lunch, because the Grim Reaper came and got them. And so you're never really relaxed, and you're never really in control of your own destiny. Obviously when you're on the field, you can make a play, but if you're not in position, if you're not on the field at, in certain times, like when I was with Saskatchewan, I was on a couple return teams, but not any cover units. And so you can't get any stats if you're not on a cover unit. And, that's tough, because, if there's no need, then you're just kind of happy you've got a job at the times. But it can be different. And I was kind of ready for a change of pace. And so 2019, the last year that I was with Montreal, I had already actually started bulldogging. I had gone to Tom Carney's place in Bernice, Louisiana, and was staying there. And I would I would train in the mornings at Louisiana Tech University, which is in Ruston, about 25 minutes down the road. I would train there at the football facility, and then I would go back to Tom's, and he'd get home around lunch, and we'd be in the practice pen till dinner time. And so it was great, to be honest. It was good for football, and it was good for rodeo in the sense that I was getting to kind of lay that groundwork that I would need to be able to have the skill and the confidence to start going to pro rodeos, at a time while I was still a pro in a different sport. So my body took a beating at the time, jumping steers and running hills and training for football at the same kind of time. But it was I wouldn't have really had it any other way. So it kept me busy. And then I went to Montreal, ended up getting released from Montreal and went right back to Tom's. And I remember they were gone and nobody was around, but I was frustrated and heartbroken a little bit because I just got released. And I went back to Tom's, and the first thing I did was load the steers in the inline chute and ran steers by myself on the ground. And that was it was just like, yeah, I'm ready for other things. And so I still, I still had the bug and still wanted to play. So I had made some calls and had some coaches that were willing to bring me in 2020, but that's when the world kind of shut down. And um, the CFL didn't end up having a season. And so I just rodeoed. And after that, I was, when you're playing football, you've got to be training for football every day. And after that year, I was just I was ready to train for a different sport, and ready to just be gone and compete. So it was a pretty easy decision at the time. And like I said, I had never really started off on my journey with intent to play that long. It just every day was kind of a blessing. My goal, I wanted to see my name on the back of my jersey, my whole life. And I did the first day I went to training camp, and they had it on our practice jerseys. And then, then I made the active roster and was playing, and I had achieved that goal. I got to see it on a few different jerseys, so it was cool. But at that point I was ready to chase the second half of my pro athlete career, I guess, and so that's what I did. And hit the trail and haven't looked back. Well, the trans